I know you want to become a better violinist. I know you want to pick up the instrument and sound like $1,000,000. You want to have great sound, you want to feel confident on the instrument, and you want to have great technique. However, there are a bunch of mistakes that I see a lot of violinists making. And how do I know about these mistakes? It's because I have made them too. Are you ready for this? It's violin time. Hey, I'm Lynn. Welcome back to my channel. I'm the founder of Violin with Dr. Lynn, where I coach motivated violinists how to master their instrument and become more fearless performers. I have made so many mistakes in my career that I am so motivated to share all of my tips and tricks so that you don't waste any time in becoming the best violinist that you can be. Mistake number 1 is not keeping a consistent hand frame. This mistake is so common because I see this in this kind of hand shape, where you see the first finger is extremely positioned outside of a proper hand frame. Now, if you're doing this, the first finger has to jump back really quickly to grab the next note on the other string. And when you have a finger that is splaying out like that, it's really difficult to grab the next note in tune and quickly. So having an inconsistent hand frame can jeopardize not only intonation, but it can also jeopardize your potential speed and your accuracy. So if you want intonation, speed, and accuracy, train a consistent hand frame. If you're curious about how to build a better hand frame, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell, because in an upcoming video, I have a video on how to build your hand frame inside of scales. Yes, I have a video on how to practice scales so that you can build your hand frame. So be sure to click subscribe and you'll be the first to know when it comes out. Mistake number 2 that violinists make: not hearing poor intonation. In fact, not listening to poor intonation is so rampant, I like to think of it as good hygiene. In taking care of yourself in terms of having good hygiene, you are making sure that you're in the most top shape that you can possibly be. And that's how I view intonation. If you're constantly upkeeping your intonation hygiene, that means you're keeping your entire health up to its optimal state. Intonation can always be refined, like constantly washing your hands or constantly brushing your teeth or taking a shower. We constantly need to refine our intonation. Now, I talk about intonation really deeply in other tutorials that I've done, and also with my students inside of my bulletproof intonation class in my boot camp. However, if you want a quick tip, make sure that you are matching as many pitches as you can to the 4 open strings on your instrument. Whenever you play a note that matches an open string, be sure to consult an open string. Mistake number 3 that I see violinists making a lot: crunching chords. This one is really tricky. It's for a bit more of the advanced violinist, and it's really easy to do when you're playing Bach chords, especially in fugues. Now, there's a misconception that to grab multiple strings with the bow, we need to press. Now, this is very common. I see so many people doing it, and I've done it for many years myself. Now, I would be careful about when you play chords. Keep your ears quite alert. Ask yourself the question: when I grab my chord, am I crunching? Am I getting the most beautiful sound possible? Now, I do have a complete tutorial on chords. You can check it out in the card above or in the description box below. I take you through all the steps that I personally have learned from my teachers on how to build a better chord. Mistake number 4 that violinists make is in the right hand: using too much of the wrist. Now, using too much of the wrist can affect both bow changes as well as off the string strokes, legato strokes. So I have made this mistake often myself. I thought that by using a lot of wrist motion, I could create a very smooth bow change. In fact, the opposite is what happens. It creates a huge bump. And also, I've seen many people think that they can create an off-the-string stroke by flexing the wrist. flexing and bending here. This does not work, and I have seen it in very advanced violinists, and I have seen it in many, many violinists of all different levels. So next time you're playing and practicing your long tones, off the string strokes, or bow changes, double check and ask yourself, are you using too much wrist and trying to control too much with the wrist part of your bow technique? Mistake number 5 that violinists make is not planning your shifts. Often I see people not really planning the shift, meaning they're not hearing the note before inside of their mind, which is called audiation. They're not audiating the note, or perhaps they do not have a good hand frame, and that's compromising the pitch, or they haven't planned out the distance of the shift and planned a guide note or a ghost note, or if they're planning a shift on the old finger or on the new finger. That's mistake number 5. Mistake number 6 that I see violinists making: not counting or keeping a steady pulse when you are practicing. Now, this is really, really basic, but is very helpful and applicable to violinists of all levels, from beginner to advanced. Even if you're practicing a Suzuki book one piece, or if you're preparing for an orchestral audition, pulse is extremely important, and rhythm is also extremely important. The big mistake that I often see is people not knowing the difference between good rhythm and good pulse. Ask yourself the question, do you know the difference? And do you practice with a metronome? Do you also practice expanding the beat of the metronome over multiple bars? These are questions that you could ask yourself to develop a better sense of pulse and rhythm so that you can become a better violinist. What do I mean by poor rhythm, and what do I mean by poor pulse? Well, for example, let's look at Mendelssohn Midsummer Night's Dream Scherzo. We have a pulse that's about click to 88. 88 equals 1 measure. So if it's so I'm tapping my toe on every single beat. Now I can stay with this, but if I have poor rhythm, the pulse is consistent. However, the rhythm is poor. What if I had poor pulse, but good rhythm? So if I had good rhythm, but poor pulse, so very difficult to demonstrate. So if the rhythm is proportional, but the pulse is getting faster, that's an example of good rhythm, but poor pulse. Mistake number 8 that I see a lot of violinists making. Now this one is a bit more on the artistic and advanced level. This mistake happens to be about not understanding the underlying harmony. And not understanding the underlying harmony of what you are playing makes your interpretations a little bit more bland and, dare I say, not as intelligent, not as interesting, not as expressive. And it's unfortunate because the understanding of harmony, the understanding of theory can actually deepen your interpretation. It can color the notes that you play. It can inflect the nuance that you inject into your interpretations. Now, this is super important because when you want to create expression, when you want to create tension and release, it all stems from your understanding of the harmonic tension and how it plays into sound, into dynamics, into tempo and pacing. All of this works beautifully together like the colors of an artist's palette. So if you are very fuzzy about the meaning of the notes, the harmonies, and what they mean in terms of harmonic significance, then your interpretation will be almost boring, shall I say. And I've seen this so many, many times. Now, I actually have a 24-page guide that explains everything on how I inject more expression, excitement, and musicality into the pieces that I'm learning. It's called my How to Be a Musical Ninja Guide. Feel free to grab it in the description box below or in the cards above. Before I get to the last 2 mistakes that violinists make, I want to point out that if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do so. I've got tons of other tutorials that I have on vibrato and spiccato, how to improve your sound, including ricochet. I even have an upcoming video, 5 shortcuts on how to improve faster on the violin. That's part 2 to this video. All right, so go ahead and click on the subscribe and notification bell. Mistake number 9 that violinists make: playing with an incorrect ratio of bow speed to bow pressure and contact point. Now, this comes with continued study and knowledge about what you're doing on the violin. So what we're doing is balancing the ratio of how fast you pull your bow to how much weight you put into the instrument and where the contact point is between the bridge and the fingerboard. Is a raspy sound, is a crunched sound. There's only 2 types of poor sound, and we've hit both of them, raspy and crunched. So if you're using the incorrect ratio of speed to pressure, then you will get poor sound. And not knowing how to manipulate these variables can really be a deterrent to your progress and your technique as a violinist. So I actually have a tutorial on that, 5 essential tips to improve your sound. Check it out up there. Mistake number 10. This last mistake is likely the most important one to be aware of as a violinist. This one can affect everything in your violin playing: your progress as an instrumentalist, your progress and development as a musician. Now, this one is so important that I wrote a free guide. This guide is called How to Practice Like a Ninja. Grab it in the description box below. Yes, this 10th mistake is not practicing efficiently. When you think about it, if you're practicing inefficiently, if your mind is out the window, if you're repeating all of your mistakes, doesn't it make sense that you would be going backwards, slowing your progress down, not improving fast enough? Your shortcut to success is to be very smart, very deliberate, and very efficient on how you practice. It makes sense, doesn't it? When you step into the practice room, are you hitting the most efficient techniques? Do you know what you're doing with the metronome? Are you paying attention really closely with your ears? I call this the detective, the scientist, and the athlete. And I teach most of this and more in my course in the Violin Ninja courses and to my students inside my violin boot camp. Ask yourself, are you practicing deliberately? Are you focused when you practice? And are you being efficient and practicing so that you're getting ahead and not going backwards? All right, those were the top 10 mistakes that I see violinists making. It's my mission to help you so that you don't make the same mistakes that I did. If you thought this video was helpful, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to my channel. There's lots of other tutorials that you will find on my channel, like these 2 here, and you're going to see much, much more content coming down in the future. So have a great day, and happy practicing, and see you in the